Welcome to Daily Success. Listen in on these personal conversations with today's leaders, innovators, and influencers as they discuss daily success principles, systems, and solutions. Get ready for Daily Success. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited that DONNA GUNTER is our guest today on the Daily Success Evergreen Giveaway. But before we talk about what DONNA is giving as her gift, let me tell you a little bit about her. DONNA GUNTER is an Amazon #1 bestselling author of Make Them Choose You and Brand Yourself as the Trusted Local Celebrity. And she helps business owners, consultants, speakers, and professionals stop the client chase by leveraging their knowledge to gain authority status in their industry. And then she helps them dramatically amplify their message and shows them how to convert the new audience into high-paying customers. She uses her proven Become Business Famous signature 7-step program, and then DONNA works with them to build powerful personal brands that increase their reach, reputation, and revenue through speaking, publishing, and publicity. She's a certified internet marketing specialist, a member of the Best-Selling Authors Association, and host of Main Street Mavericks Radio. And the gift that she's giving away today that is of such high value is 9 quick ways to become business famous in your local area. And this is really important because, as many of you know, I help people with their massive media exposure. And one of the things that both DONNA and I agree on is that you can start at your downtown, uptown, local level. So I want to ask you, DONNA, about that. Why would a local business person want to have a book?
Well, Tammy, that's a great question. And I think it's especially important for business owners in professional services fields because they typically want to build their credibility and their authority so that they stand out from their competition. You know, most business owners do things like write case studies or publish testimonials and reviews. They might get interviewed on TV or hold a lunch and learn kind of series or go to networking events. But the big challenge with all of those strategies is that they take a long time to create and to implement. So business owners can build their authority and credibility and get where they want to be using these strategies, but it's going to take some time to get some traction. And most of them don't want to spend 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or a year trying to get that kind of traction. They want to explode their business and typically do that pretty quickly. That's why I think the easiest way and the best way to build massive authority, credibility, is to create an amazing lead magnet for your business. And by doing that in the form of a book. Now, it can be a book where you share your expertise with some other experts, or it can be in your own book that you use as a lead magnet for your business. And best of all, it can be created without having to spend a lot of time and money. And it can also be created even if you hate to write. Most of my clients create it without even writing one word. What's even cooler about this process is that as you look in your local area, how many of your competition have their own books or have been featured in a book? My guess would be you're not going to find one. So having your own book or being featured in a book is the best way to make you the obvious choice for your market and to get your prospects to choose you as the business they want to hire.
It's interesting that you say that because in 2011, when I wrote my first book, I still remember I took copies of my book to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. There were about 20 people there. And I didn't have 20 books. I maybe had 5. But everybody was like picking the book up, thumbing through the book. This one woman tried to read the whole, it was a 200-page book too. She tried to read the whole book during the lunch. And then later, of course, she talked to me. And another time I had my book at a lunch and learn, and in the audience was the director of community education for Florida Gulf Coast University. And that's how I actually got hired to create an entire social media certification program for Florida Gulf Coast University, all because of my book. And of course, I'm in, social media, public relations, publicity. But what kinds of businesses could this work for?
It really works best if you're a consultant, speaker, or coach, or you're in a professional service business like a dentist or doctor, a chiropractor, accountant, insurance agent. Anywhere you've got you're competing against others in a professional services field. However, if you're currently using business cards, brochures, flyers, and advertising on local TV and radio stations as a way of promoting your business, my guess is more than likely a book will help you stand out above the crowd, stand out above your competition.
I think you're right. Thinking back in my local community, because I live in a small town, it isn't a big city or anything, but they do a lot of networking. They do, for example, BNI meetings, business networking, international meetings are big in this town. Chamber of Commerce meetups, lunch and learns are big. SCORE, Small Business Development Center. And in all of those, I do not think I've ever seen anybody actually have a book. They do have business cards, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone except me have a book in those meetings. So how do you think that a book would really help a local business grow?
Well, Tammy, like you talked about with your experience and the attention that you got at your meetings when you showed your book around and people started looking at your book, there's still a certain amount of awe and starstruckness that people have about a book author, even though you and I know that it's pretty easy to self-publish these days. And thank God self-publishing has come a really long way from where it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago, so that if I put a self-published book up against one by, say, Simon & Schuster, which is one of the big publishing houses out of New York, it's hard for me to tell the difference in the two. So self-publishing has grown leaps and bounds in the last 10 or 15 years. And because there's still that awe of mystery and being starstruck around you when you present yourself as an author as opposed to, say, an insurance agent or a chiropractor, this book serves as what I call the ultimate business card. It's a great marketing tool that allows you to reach out to a wider audience and provide them to a solution with one of their major problems. So it may not be that 200-page book that you mentioned previously that you published. I really like to tell my clients to publish a one problem, one solution book, something that's, maybe 70-ish or so pages that can be read in one sitting, because I know that I've got a bookshelf full of books and many of them are 150 to 250 pages long. I don't read the whole thing. I don't think most people read the whole thing either. I simply go to the chapter that applies to what I want to know the most and read that. And then I might go back and read the rest of the book. But when you publish a really short book, you're giving people the answer to one pressing question that they have about your industry and giving them a solution to that, something that can be consumed in one really short setting. Another way that this book can help you grow your business is it serves as a lead generation tool for you. So if you give a copy of your book out to current clients and prospects, if you give your book away via any advertising that you're doing on local TV and radio stations, and start collecting your prospects' email information, you've created a marketing platform then where you can reach out to these prospects and remind them of you. And best of all, they're going to keep that book around on their desk or in their bookcase, and every time they look at that, they're going to be reminded about you. As you experienced in your networking meetings, this book will also give you credibility. I mean, who knows more on the topic than the person who wrote the book about something? So it does give some awe-inspiring confidence to you if you like a little bit of that. And it does position you as an authority in your prospects' eyes and your colleagues' eyes, even in the eyes of your competition, because you've got a book out about the subject.
Well, I think you're 100% right. I have a question about the mistakes that people make, because like for example, I'm not saying it was a mistake for me to have a 250-page book, because my book was designed more to be a log book to write in. So it was just designed to be something a little bit different. But what would you say is the biggest mistake that local business owners make that might cripple their ability to use this book for making money? What do you think about that?
The biggest mistake that people tend to make when they publish a book is that they think they're going to get on Oprah's bestseller list and make loads and loads of money from selling the book. The key, especially in the local business space, is not to sell your book, but to give away as many copies as possible and really not sell any books at all. So think about it this way. If you're a real estate agent, would you rather get commissions as a real estate agent from sales of, say, properties that you sold for $300,000? That would be about, I think, $18,000 with a 6% commission, which is the norm here for Texas. Or would you rather try and sell the equivalent number of books priced at $19.99 to get those commissions? And, I did my math, and that's going to be 900 books if you're counting. So if used properly, by giving these books away rather than counting on making money from selling them, your book could really create the kind of business that you want by if you make sure that it gets in the hands of the right prospects. So giving it away to your colleagues, to your customers, to your prospects, to your friends, to family members, to vendors, even to your competition, gets the word out about who you are and what you do. And as you experience, Tammy, in your meetings, it is something that so very much sets you apart from anybody else in your local area, regardless of what industry that you're in, because book publishing as a marketing tool really hasn't hit mainstream local media yet.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I still laugh because I have some videos of me standing out in my backyard with perspiration rolling down my face saying, Facebook is not a fad. And so I'm thinking about the same thing with books, because often a lot of people, when they think of a book, they think of, my memoir, or they think of the great American novel. And they think, don't I need an agent? Don't I need to go to a big New York City publisher? And you briefly touched on that about self-publishing, but is there the stigma? There used to be a stigma about self-publishing. They called it vanity press. And they used to have, and I was a printer back in the day, and people would come to me and print their books, and I couldn't sell them one book. I had to sell them 2,500 books, 5,000 books, and you got a really good break if you bought 10,000.
Right.
How has that changed for people? Because I can hear it now. People saying, yeah, Donna, yeah, Tammy, but it's going to be way too expensive. And you said I don't have to write. How could that be? So can you explain a little bit about how the book publication process is different than it used to be?
Oh, man, Tammy, it's grown by leaps and bounds, as I'm sure you're probably aware. 10 or 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted to publish a book, you almost had to get an agent to do that and to set you up with a publishing deal. Well, you can't go directly to the publishers in most cases without having an agent, and you can't, it's a circular process, kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg. And it's for 99% of the people that were seeking publishing deals, most of them did not succeed. There would be one or two that would kind of rise out of the ashes, like a J.K. Rowling, for example, with Harry Potter. But that wasn't the norm. So for Joe Blow business owner, or, somebody who's a local chiropractor or a local plastic surgeon or what have you, who had a great strategy or technique that they wanted to talk about in a book, getting a publishing deal was almost impossible. And then in came Amazon. Amazon first became, I remember their really bad web pages when they started in the 90s, and how much they've grown by leaps and bounds. But I do most of my publishing through their Kindle Direct platform. And that means that for my clients, they don't have to fill up their garage with 10,000 copies of a book in order to get a deal, reasonable price, wholesale copy cost for their book. They can order them by print on demand, which if they want 10 copies of their book, they can order 10 copies. They want 200 copies for a speaking event, they can do that. So working with a print on demand publisher has eliminated the necessity to fill your garage with 10,000 books, 9,999 you'll never get rid of. And I consider myself a hybrid publisher, so that when I'm working with a client, my publishing company goes on their book, so it doesn't look so much like a quote-unquote vanity press. The other big thing that has changed in the last 10 to 20 years has been that self-published books used to be really poorly written and poorly edited. The person who was writing the book didn't go to the expense to hire a proofreader or hire a copy editor or hire somebody just to correct grammar. And I've got some of those books from 20 years ago. There was a big incident that happened in my hometown, and several people wrote about that incident. And I read through the book, and it's a great story, but I'm thinking, oh my God, did they not have anybody proofread this? There's so many misspellings in this. The book looked okay, but it was just full of grammatical errors and full of things that repeated themselves. They really needed a good copy editor to work with them. So when you're working with a hybrid publisher like I am, we do all that work for you, from sitting you down to interview for the book. So we interview you so you don't really have to write anything. We put the information together in a logical format. We proofread it, we copy edit it, and so you come out with a book that, again, can stand up against something that Simon & Schuster would publish, or Macmillan House Publishers, any of the big New York City publishers could publish, but the difference being you're going to use that book. It's going to be a much shorter book, and you're going to use that to generate leads for your business by giving it away. So we take care of all the fuss and muss for you. In total, I think my clients, including the interview time, maybe spend 3 to 4 hours total in the process, from their interview to giving their okay for the cover, to having somebody to them reviewing the proof as it comes to them, as opposed to somebody who's a true self-publisher and they're investing 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 hours in the process if they're doing it from soup to nuts, from the writing process to the editing process to the cover design process to uploading it to having it printed. And so if you're more of the, I really want this done, I really want to grow my business quickly, you'll hire a hybrid publisher to do most of the work for you, do all the heavy lifting, because I know most business owners are so busy providing services and or marketing their business, they don't have 80 hours sitting around to be able to do something like this. One person I spoke to, who's a fertility specialist, talked about, until she got to the point of deciding to hire a hybrid publisher, she had spent 3 years working on her book. And she could kick herself because that's 3 years she did not have a book in hand to pass out to prospects. And it has been such a boon to her business since she published that book.
And I think you're absolutely right, because, again, most people, they literally don't understand that you don't have to sit down and write a book. They sit there and look at a blank page for hours and hours. And think about that. How much money did she lose in that 3 years of, trying to create something? And when you set her down, and some of these interviews can be as short as 60 minutes too.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine if you were able to, contact you, Donna, and say, hey, Donna, and you go, okay, well, we're going to interview you, boom, boom. Hey, and you look at the clock, and like in the amount of time that we've spent talking, which is a little less than a half an hour right now, you could have a short book, and in just the information that we've provided in our conversation, there's enough really good gold nugget information for a short book about how do you become this business famous. So it's beautiful how that all works. I wanted to ask you this because you know a lot about how business owners can use their book to get referrals. Give me some ideas about how to use this book that are concrete, so that our listeners can walk away with going, oh, I can do that.
Well, one of the things I tell my customers, my clients, to do is to send out their book to local media to position themselves as a subject matter expert, or they like to call it a media darling. again, you and I both know that this is not very commonplace in local media, especially if you're in a smaller town. And by smaller town, I mean, somewhere under maybe 200,000 or so. It's just not every day that somebody runs across a business owner who's also a book author. So letting your local newspaper, magazine, TV station, radio broadcasters, and reporters know that you've published a book will get their attention, because these media types are always looking for subject matter experts. So they may not use you right away, but 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, their editor may say, well, you need to do a story on such and so, and that's something you happen to be a topic expert on. So they've got your book right there with your contact information. They can get in touch with you, and it may just be an audio interview, if they're doing a written piece, or they may ask you to the radio station or to the television station to do an in-person interview about that particular topic. It's so important to stay top of mind. And the nice thing about being a book author, as opposed to sending somebody a flyer or a business card or a brochure, is that people are hesitant to throw books away. I've got a library's worth of books. Trust me, I've been asked if I run my own library. I have so many books in my office. And it's painful for me to throw those books away. Now, my husband doesn't have that pain. He throws the books away all the time. And I turn around after him and pick those up out of the trash and give them to Goodwill. But for most people, it's difficult to throw a book away. So this reporter, this media person that you sent your book to, they're not going to ditch your information as quickly as they might if you sent them a brochure or a flyer. They're going to keep that around on their desk. They're going to keep that around in their bookcase. And so they're looking at that all the time. And that may actually entice them to invite you back several more times if they're doing a particular series on something that you're a subject matter expert about. I'll go back to what you also said, Tammy, about taking your book to networking meetings. When you give out a copy of your book at any local meeting, be that a networking meeting, a Lions Club meeting, a professional association meeting, you are going to stick out, trust me, so much more than people who've just been passing around their business cards. It will give you a huge edge over the competition. And people may even come up to you and ask to take a selfie of you, because then you've become famous. He's like, oh, well, this is a book author. Can I take a picture with you? Can I take a selfie with you and show your book? If you're doing any kind of advertising in your local media, use your book as the lead magnet to get people to come into your office, or to get them to call you, or get them to send you an email address. Now, you don't necessarily have to do the physical copy of the book, because I also give my clients electronic copies of the book. But how much more traffic could you get to your website if on your local TV commercial, you're, say, a dentist and you're aiming at the bridal industry, and you've got a book on teeth whitening for brides, instead of saying, call me at this telephone number to book your free appointment. Instead, your commercial says, and you brides who are looking to be beautiful on your wedding day, go to this website and request my free book on how to be a beautiful bride, how to whiten your teeth, whatever your title might be, to look beautiful on your wedding day. And that, I think, makes all the difference in your advertising, because, again, you're doing a really different call to action than any of your competition in the dental industry or any other industry for that matter. So people are going to pay attention to that.
Oops. That is actually a really good idea, because as you were speaking, I see a lot of dentist commercials on TV, and here it's all about, teeth in one day.
Right.
But we have an older demographic. But that would be another point, because a lot of people think about that. If a dentist wanted to do a book about teeth in one day, about dental implants, targeting an older demographic. And again, in Florida where I live, some of the towns, the average age is 70. But if you think about it, they would really like a book because it's tangible,
Exactly.
And that's something that sometimes we don't think about when we're marketing, is that there are certain people that a tangible physical book is going to carry a lot more value to them than anything digital, just because of the era that they grew up in. And I think that you're really smart when you say, oh, I offer it as a digital download as well as a physical book. So those are really good tips, Donna, about using books. And again, I'm right there with you. I firmly believe that business people should be using books in their marketing. And even when it comes to getting on radio shows, podcasts, TV, or doing media, if you have a book compared to somebody else, guess who's going to get on that TV show or on the radio or on the podcast? You, because you
Precisely.
have a book. So those are just really good tips. So if somebody wants to reach out to you directly, of course, they can download your free gift because that's, very easy to do. But if they want to reach out directly, how can they do that?
Well, they can visit my website at bizsmartmedia.com, or they can go to Donna Gunter, that's DONNAGUNTER.com. That's actually my electronic business card. There's my contact information is on both of those places, and I'll be happy to chat with them about becoming business famous in their local area, or about creating a book for them to get more clients or more customers to their business.
And just a reminder, everyone, the Daily Success Giveaway is 9 quick ways to become business famous in your local area. And I just think it's so important for everyone listening that, again, you don't have to worry about being famous around the globe or even across the country. But if you can become business famous in your local area, like what Donna is talking about, you will have unlimited clients and customers begging to work with you, because as an author, that literally equates to authority. and I think that's so important. So Donna, thank you so much for visiting today and for helping with the Daily Success Evergreen Giveaway. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tammy. It was great to be here.
Everyone, go make it a beautiful day. This is Tammy Patzer.
You've been listening to Daily Success. Tune in again and subscribe. Never miss a moment of daily success.